Hello guys, you are seeing Prime News Australia, where we show you the latest and important news of Australia in the fastest and reliable way. So come, let's start by not delaying. 25 big updates of the Australia, especially for you. Before proceeding in the video, comment by commenting from which state you are watching, and also like video, so that YouTube can reach this video to more people of Australia. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed a joint sitting of Australia's Parliament in Canberra, urging middle powers, like Canada and Australia, to collaborate closely in a fractured global order dominated by great powers. He emphasized shared values, resisting hegemony, and deepening ties on defense, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence amid rising instability from the Iran conflict. Carney described the two nations as strategic cousins, capable of shaping new international rules for security and prosperity. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and visiting Canadian PM Mark Carney held a joint press conference in Canberra calling for de-escalation in the Iran war, while firmly stating Iran must never acquire nuclear weapons. They announced enhanced bilateral cooperation, including research funding, pension fund collaborations, and strategic sector partnerships to strengthen resilience against global turmoil and promote clean growth and innovation between the two Commonwealth allies. Foreign Minister Penny Wong confirmed Australia has deployed 6 crisis response consular teams to the Middle East to support diplomats and assist thousands of stranded Australians. With commercial routes partially resuming through negotiated safe corridors, the teams focus on repatriation efforts as the conflict spreads, including Iranian missile incidents, and up to 115,000 Australians remain in the region facing travel disruptions. Prime Minister Albanese revealed 2 Royal Australian Air Force aircraft, a KC-30 tanker, and C-17A transport, have been deployed to the Middle East as contingency assets to aid in repatriating stranded citizens. This follows the outbreak of wider hostilities involving U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran, with the government prioritizing evacuation support over any military involvement in the conflict itself. The first commercial flight carrying around 200 stranded Australians from Dubai landed safely in Sydney aboard Emirates EK414. This marks an early success in repatriation efforts after airspace closures due to the Iran war. Emotional reunions occurred at the airport, as evacuees described terrifying experiences amid missile strikes and uncertainty, with more flights expected as safe corridors stabilize. Australian household spending rebounded modestly in January to 78.98 billion Australian dollars, up 0.3% month-on-month according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, following a decline in December. However, consumers remain cautious amid expectations of potential interest rate hikes influenced by global oil price spikes from the Middle East conflict, contributing to economic uncertainty. Australian exports to the United States face imminent tariff increases from 10% to 15%, after the U.S. Supreme Court invalidated prior country-specific levies. A temporary global tariff rate has been introduced, potentially lasting months, impacting trade flows and prompting analysts to warn of short-term pressures on Australian exporters, despite overall market resilience. A devastating overnight fire completely destroyed Tamar Marine and Almest Australia premises on Launceston's waterfront in Tasmania. Emergency services battled the blaze, which engulfed the marine businesses, causing significant structural damage. Investigations into the cause are ongoing, with local authorities assessing impacts on nearby properties and the maritime industry. The Sydney Jewish Museum plans to create a memorial exhibit for the 15 victims of the recent Bondi Beach mass shooting, integrating it into displays on contemporary Australian atrocities. Community leaders continue advocating for improved public site security measures as the incident remains a painful national memory, driving calls for enhanced prevention strategies. Prime Minister Albanese reiterated there is no justification for attacks on civilian areas in the Middle East conflict, condemning escalations while stressing diplomatic solutions. Opposition voices aligned Australian interests with U.S.-Israel actions against destabilizing forces, highlighting the government's firm stance against Iranian aggression without committing forces. Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull commented that the United States selectively complies with international law amid debates over the legality of recent strikes in the Iran conflict. His remarks fueled parliamentary and public discussions on Australia's alignment with allies during the ongoing crisis and implications for global norms. Australia voiced serious concern after NATO systems intercepted an Iranian ballistic missile in Turkish airspace, underscoring risks of the conflict broadening beyond the Middle East. Foreign Minister Penny Wong highlighted the incident as evidence of spreading hostilities, prompting heightened monitoring by Australian agencies. Negotiated 3-way agreements secured safe civilian flight corridors through Iranian-controlled airspace, facilitating the return of stranded Australians and other nationals. This breakthrough aided initial repatriations, with DFAT coordinating alongside airlines to expand options as commercial operations cautiously resume amid the war. 24,000 Australians remain stranded in the UAE alone, part of the estimated 115,000 across the Middle East. The government has intensified consular support, military contingency planning, and liaison with airlines to manage the crisis, urging those affected to shelter in place while evacuation pathways improve. Canadian PM Mark Carney described Canada and Australia as strategic cousins that should unite to negotiate more effectively with superpowers, including the current U.S. administration. During his visit, he pitched enhanced defense and technology partnerships based on shared Commonwealth values to counter dominance by larger nations. Reports emerged of Prime Minister Albanese previously gifting a model nuclear submarine on a golden plate to Donald Trump during a White House visit, symbolizing strong UK-US ties. The gesture resurfaced in discussions of alliance dynamics amid the Middle East crisis and evolving global security challenges. Discussions on Australia's terror threat level intensified due to Middle East unrest, though no immediate elevation was announced following recent strikes and retaliations. Authorities maintain the current probable rating, monitoring for onshore risks while emphasizing vigilance without panic. Opposition leader Angus Taylor and other parliamentarians participated in welcoming Canadian PM Carney, with sessions focusing on alliance strengthening through motions and debates. The visit highlighted bipartisan support for closer middle power cooperation on strategic issues like defense and resources. The Australian government firmly ruled out deploying troops to the Middle East conflict zone, prioritizing diplomatic pressure, consular aid, and evacuation support. Defense minister statements reinforced this position, focusing resources on protecting nationals rather than direct military engagement. Australian shares opened higher in early trading following Wall Street gains, but analysts noted dips possible amid global uncertainty from the widening U.S.-Israel-Iran war and U.S. tariff adjustments affecting trade. Market sentiment remains mixed with oil price volatility in focus. During his address and meetings, Carney pitched deeper Canada-Australia partnerships in defense, critical minerals, and AI, citing mutual benefits for economic resilience. The initiatives aim to accelerate commercialization, talent mobility, and joint projects in advanced technologies and clean growth sectors. DFAT provided updates to stranded expats and travelers on contingency plans, including potential large-scale repatriation using military assets if commercial options falter. Coordination continues with regional partners to ensure safety amid disrupted air travel and escalating regional tensions. Community responses to the Bondi Beach shooting aftermath persisted, with leaders pushing for bolstered security at public venues and permanent memorials. Ongoing support services for victims' families underscore the incident's lasting impact on national safety discussions. Commercial radio networks reported major internal restructurings described as the industry's biggest shakeup in years, driven by shifting market dynamics, audience changes, and economic pressures. Industry insiders speculate on programming and staffing implications amid broader media adaptations. A severe tropical low, 29U, is forecast to reach Queensland's coast by Friday, potentially bringing heavy rain, strong winds, and flooding to multiple regions through the weekend. The Bureau of Meteorology urged preparations as the system tracks southwest, with updates on impacts expected soon.